Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you, and it's great to have this opportunity to serve as your platform person. And y'all are looking good, and I know that those who are on Zoom with us and who will be looking at us on YouTube later will enjoy this wonderful summertime service. We're at the weekend of Independence Day, so lots of people are having joyful time taking advantage of sales in all of the stores and picking up fireworks and what have you. Welcome to Unity of Charlotte. We welcome all of you, whether you're in the sanctuary or looking at your computer or your cell phone. My name is Lawrence Tolliver, and I live to serve. And that's what I love to do. Reverends Lisa and Jim are in Kansas City because there's a great convention going on at this time. It's the annual convention of Unity Worldwide Ministries. So I suspect they'll come back with some inspiration to share with us. Unity of Charlotte is the place where we nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. And simply put, this means we are here to love, grow, and serve. If you are here for the first time, we want to let you know that wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcomed right here. We do have visitor packets, and our greeters team will assist you with them. We invite each of you to reach out to myself or any member of our congregation to learn more. You may also go to our website at unityofcharlotte.org. It's filled with the latest information about our spiritual community's journey forward. You may also sign up to receive a very nice weekly email that is composed and sent out to keep you apprised of any changes or any events and gatherings that are coming up. I do want to acknowledge some things that are coming up, giving you kind of an update on the announcements at this time. First of all, we have a couple who is coming to us, and they're going to help us in our service on next Sunday, July the 9th, and they're going to also provide us with a wonderful concert in the evening. Armand and Angelina will be here. They have served us before at our previous location, and we've always gotten something out of their presence and their presentations. So please be a part of their visit to us Sunday, July the 9th, at both our regular service and at the 6 p.m. Special service right here. It'll be great. Now, today, being the first Sunday of the month, means we get to pig out today. We have our potluck, service today, and I noticed lots of people who, under instruction, were out there just getting prepared to serve us a wonderful array and variety of foods and drinks. So we have been reminded that in future events, potluck Sundays, not to bring utensils. We'll have those right here for you. Also, Barbara wants you to know that you need her permission to frequent the kitchen on potluck Sundays. So if you don't have Barbara's permission to frequent the kitchen, you know how chefs are, don't you? And they have authority when they're in the kitchen. Is that not right? Okay, so yeah, yes, indeed, we understand. Thank you. So we're certainly happy when young people, children show up, and we are also happier when their parents or guardians are with them when they go to frequent the table. So now we have something that is getting started on Saturday, July the 8th, and that is the second and our series of 3 theater workshops. Reverend Dr. Adrian is doing a marvelous job. We saw her handiwork last Sunday, and she had prepared more than a half dozen people to come up front and to share what they had been learning in her theater workshops. We were all enthused by their presentations. They were wonderful and they were funny when they were supposed to be. So everybody can't do that. So instruction required. But if you have a desire to participate in the theater workshops, you need to connect and pre-register. And you will find a way to do that as you exit the sanctuary today. You will also be able to find a way to pre-register for the theater workshops if you go on to our website at unityofcharlotte.org. So please do that, and we certainly hope that you were encouraged and that your courage was raised when you saw those wonderful performances last Sunday. Also, we are going to have a series of workshops for new members and any members. Some people love to be reminded of our spiritual practices. They love to actually practice. So we do have new member workshops that are open. The affirmative prayer workshop takes place Saturday, July the 15th. The new member class takes place Saturday, August the 19th. So again, you may find the registration opportunity right at our website, and you will see a QR code as you exit from the sanctuary this morning. Youth and Family Ministry is fully started and fully staffed. So don't forget to bring grandchildren and other children with you. They don't have to sit here on their hands. They can go and do something with their hands in the classroom. Also, there is a pub theology discussion on this Thursday, and that would be on July the 6th at 5 p.m. at Sir Edmund Haley's pub. Of course, they don't call it a pub here, they call it a bar. So now it's time for us to really delve into our worship service. And if you would, please join me for prayer. Father, Mother God, we do thank you for life and love and health. We thank you for this opportunity to gather as a spiritual community. We love being here. We love contributing to the health of this spiritual community. Our eyes, our minds have been awakened to the impact that we have when we engage in affirmative prayer together. By virtue of unity, we have learned the good we do is good for all. By virtue of the principles of unity, we know the good we do as individuals and as a community is good for all life. This awareness, this consciousness is powerful. We thank you, Father, Mother God, for awakening us to this truth. And so it is. Now, if you would, please join me in a statement of our vision. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe. God, the good, omnipotent. We claim and affirm this presence in our lives as love. This week I was thinking about what happens when a baby is born. That baby looks into the eyes of whoever holds it longingly. That baby is looking for love. And we all know love has to be communicated by the adult that holds that infant. Love is what nurtures that infant. It nurtures that mom. It nurtures that family. Love. Now, for our daily word, I want to share with you, the theme is guidance. So, I seek, trust, and follow my guidance. That is the theme of our daily word for July the 2nd. Please allow me to share it with you. Seeking divine guidance means tuning out information and opinions and turning inward. Then, with an open heart and quiet mind, I can better feel the nudge of my intuition, my inner voice. I receive divine guidance much in the way flowers in a field soak up sunshine. Just as following the sun is innate to the flowers, I have the instinct to trust my inner knowing. Even if my guidance surprises me, I trust it to lead me on the path to my highest good. I follow where I feel called to go. I heed the still small voice within and pay particular attention to the serendipitous circumstances I find along the way. I seek, trust, and follow my guidance. As I do, I deepen my relationship with God, knowing wherever I go, I do not travel alone. Isaiah 58:11 says, "The Lord will guide you continually." Continually. while you are in that meditative state, please recall the name of any person in your life who has a need for prayer and affirm for them. Affirm for them the outcome that is the highest and best for them individually as well as for all of us. We are in this thing together. Father, Mother God, we affirm the highest and best for every person who has come to our collective consciousness, knowing all power rests in your hands.
Thank you. Yeah, so I wanted us to get that thought in our mind: free, unlimited, no chains, nothing holding us back. And then I want you just to breathe into that. Just take a few nice long breaths and breathe into that. If you feel comfortable, just let your eyes softly close or your gaze drift gently downward, unfocused. Free and unlimited. Free and unlimited. How might that feel inside your body right now? How might that feel inside you where you sit? If you are absolutely free, absolutely unlimited, held back by nothing whatsoever. See if you can breathe into that and let your imagination begin to take you to that place. We're coming to an Independence Day weekend, a time of freedom, a time when we celebrate liberation, openness. Take yourselves into the place by breathing into that place where you are right now, you personally. Say it for yourself: I am free. I am unlimited. There is absolutely nothing anywhere that limits or holds me back. Nothing that holds me back. Absolutely. Breathe that, feel that, and just sit with that in the silence for a few minutes. Free and unlimited. And if part of your mind or your thoughts wants to argue with that, just breathe. Let it say whatever it wants, because you are free and unlimited, no matter what is said. Breathe. We are free. We are unlimited. If there seem to be things that hold us back, it is things in our mind. Who and what we are cannot be limited. Who and what you are, who and what we are collectively cannot be limited. It transcends all apparent limitation. Free, unlimited, right now. And so with a couple more nice, long, smooth breaths, I invite us to start to come back here to the room, our attention back here. Feel the chair beneath you. Feel the breath, the cool moving in and out. When you're ready, just open your eyes gently. See if you can let some of that feeling of freedom and limitless come back with you. See if you can feel it here in this room. Seen or unseen, it's always here. And we're always a part of it. Welcome gently back. So thank you. All right. Well, if any of you have noticed, there's red, white, and blue flowers in front of me. And I found the one tie that has red, white, and blue in it. Because we're only 2 days away from Independence Day, 4th of July. So I'm going to call today's talk Almost Independence Day. Almost Independence Day. First, I'd like to ask you guys to participate in one thing. In a sentence or maybe one word, what does Independence Day mean for you? What does Independence Day mean for you or to you? A word or a sentence? What's it mean? Freedom? Holiday? America? Celebration? Self-rule. That's a good one. I like that. Yeah. It can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, right? I mean, because these are ideas, these are mental images in our minds. And I want to explore some of the mental images we have in our minds about independence, self-rule. I like that. Freedom. You know? People often mention freedom. And of course, why do we want freedom? Why do we want those things? Well, I think it's because we believe those things will make us happy. And let's face it, what does everybody want? Everybody wants to be happy, or at least a little happier than they are right now, right? Even if you can't get all the way to happy. You want to be a little happier. And so from our present perspective, from our present frame of mind, we try to find things that will make us, that we believe will make us happier. That's often an interesting thing to deal with. How do we get happy? Well, thinking about Independence Day and the founding of our country and all that, I went back to thinking about some of the first people that came to our country who were trying to find a sense of freedom and independence. And interestingly enough, I went digging through family history. My name is James Record Fuller. The Records and the Fullers, unfortunately, were here way on early. And interestingly enough, were part of the Pilgrim, or let's face it, Puritan group that came here. So they could have total freedom of religion, which if you looked at their religion was anything but free. I'm tempted to I'll call them fanatics as opposed to extremists, but judgmental, pessimistic. And if you spoke to them about happiness, that would be highly suspect. Highly suspect. It's funny, many years, my grandfather used to talk about the family being part of First Families. Many years ago, I took my kids to Plymouth Plantation and up to see the Mayflower in Massachusetts. It's a beautiful Disney version of the Puritans. And then I started reading some more about them and their history, and it's sort of like, well, I'm glad to have some distance between me and them. A little bit of distance there. It's interesting. But then what I realized and what I remembered, and actually what I learned back then, was we are not our histories. We're not our family's histories. We're not our own personal history as we imagine it and remember it. You're not who you were last month, much less a decade ago or two or generations ago. That's not who and what we are. That's not who and what we are at all. If we want to find freedom, if we want to find happiness, where do we find it? Yeah, inside and here and now. And here and now. Can't find it anywhere else, nowhere else to be found. So, back to almost Independence Day, right? We are an independent nation. In the 1700s, we fought a revolutionary war funded by the Dutch, armed by the French, and we defeated the British, and we became an independent country. Isn't that great? So now we don't have to speak that English language anymore. We don't have to have some of the laws and customs which we imported directly from Britain, right? And who was our biggest trading partners in post-revolutionary America? It was the British. I mean, we were officially independent, but we were basically almost independent. And that's kind of how things move to present time. Are we currently an independent nation? I'd love to believe so. I would absolutely love to believe it. But are there still people and groups we depend upon? Our Canadian friends, our allies, right? Our European allies, our Saudi allies that we trade with. What about our very interesting trading partners like China and Russia? How about China and Russia? Look at your stuff. Where's it made? Oh, we're independent. Absolutely. And Russia, it's interesting. Right now, we have all kinds of sanctions against Russia because basically we're fighting a little proxy war with them, right? But last week, I'm reading in the New York Times, and the headline of the article is, the U.S. is paying billions for Russia's nuclear agency. That got my attention. The U.S. is paying billions to Russia's nuclear agency. The first sentence of the article says, nuclear power companies rely on cheap, enriched uranium made in Russia. It apparently is the primary source worldwide for that. So, we may have sanctions, we may have an ongoing proxy war, but we still find ourselves needing to cooperate with the other countries and people on this tiny little planet. Isn't that an interesting thought? Are we really independent from one another? Much less independent from our source, right? I mean, we like to think, I can do anything I want. But anyway, I've often joked that, we have a national anthem, lovely national anthem, but there's also a planetary anthem. The Earth, did you know the Earth had an anthem? Frank Sinatra used to sing it all the time and very beautifully. I did it my way. That is the national anthem for this planet. Look around, you will notice it. And that's part of where we get caught, right? Because we get caught believing that we do it our way, when in truth, we're all very interdependent. So that is a interesting situation, dichotomy to deal with. Yes, Independence Day is wonderful, But I actually think that another holiday that should be celebrated is Interdependence Day. I've often said that around the holidays. Interdependence Day. Interdependence with one another, with all the other people on the planet, with our Creator, with all it is. Interdependence. When we finally get to Interdependence Day and get it, that'll be good, because you want to know the truth? Every day is Interdependence Day. It doesn't come once a year. Every day, right now, is Interdependence Day. And when we actually wise up and begin to acknowledge that and let that settle, then we have a chance at finding those things that our pilgrim ancestors and others were looking for, that sense of freedom and independence and ability to not be limited, no chains that bind me. Only when we connect with Interdependence Day every day. How many of you read books by Naomi Rachel Remen? About 20 years ago, she wrote 2 books. One was called Kitchen Table Wisdom, and one was called My Grandfather's Blessing. Anybody see those? Remen was a physician turned therapist. She learned that physicians were getting very bad training in terms of how to live as human beings, and so she became a therapist for physicians. And she wrote a couple of books about growing up in her family. One of the stories she tells, they're good books, Kitchen Table Wisdom, My Grandfather's Blessing. They both have great stories. One of the stories she tells about her growing up as a small child was her family's tradition of keeping a jigsaw puzzle going on the coffee table in the living room. There was always one on the coffee table in front. Everybody kind of worked on it till it got put together, and then they'd bring out another one. Well, that was fine, except little Naomi, when she was, 6 or 8, saw all those pieces there, and some of them, how the jigsaw has all those little broken edges, and some of them looked to her kind of like spiders or insects sitting on the coffee table. And she looked, and she saw these little dark pieces with all these little legs, and it made her nervous to sit in the living room. And so, being a wise young woman, she decided the thing to do was to remove those pieces. So she would stick them under the sofa cushions or in a drawer or in a closet. And the family would continue putting the puzzle together until it became apparent that important pieces, significant pieces, were not there. And so they would eventually go get her and make her come in and show where she had hidden the pieces. And what she discovered, and what she comments in the book, is, once the pieces were back in place, it all made sense. Individually, they looked discomforting to her. But once the pieces were put into place, the whole thing became a beautiful picture on the puzzle, even though individually they had made her think other things. I've often thought that that was a beautiful analogy for our world and everybody in it and the things in it. Many of you know I've been a student of Course in Miracles for a long time. You'd think I would have it better by now, but I'm still working at it. There's a beautiful line in the Course in Miracles that says, "You see something where nothing is, and you see nothing where there is a unity, a wholeness." Talking about our perception. You see something where nothing is, and you see nothing where there is a unity, a wholeness. Good remembrance back to Jesus' line in the Bible. The kingdom of heaven is all around, but people don't see it. Right? People don't see it. We see things that aren't there, and we miss the big picture. We miss the big picture. The Course, which has sort of a psychological background, sideline to it, I'll say. It's presented in psychological terms because it was received by psychologists, and so that's how they needed to hear it. Has a repeated message, which is projection makes perception. Projection. What I see out there is what I'm seeing, is what I'm projecting out there. Based on the psychological principle that if I'm uncomfortable with something, Naomi was uncomfortable with seeing the little pieces on the coffee table. If I'm uncomfortable with something in my mind, some thought, some piece of past, I want to get it out of there. And how do you do that? It's not here, it's out there. Look, I see it out there. I see it out there. Now it's not a problem to me. Oh, except I see it everywhere I look. Projection makes up our perception. Some people say it makes up a lot. The Course says it makes it all. And then try to deal with what we're seeing out there rather than the source that's going on. Now, to me, with the social work background, this all sounds a lot like a mental health issue. Does this sound a bit like a mental health issue to you? You know, people who suffer from mental illness suffer because they look out there and they see things that aren't there, or see things the way they are not, and it freaks them out, right? And they can't tell what's real. They can't tell what's spiders and what's puzzle pieces, right? And they become anxious or immobilized or whatever. A truly difficult way to go through life. I actually got a little introduction to mental illness. Oh, it's got been 25 years ago now. In the grocery store. I was shopping one day. I'd been doing spiritual work for quite a number of years. I'll say that before to preface this. I've been doing spiritual work for quite a number of years. And I shopped at my local grocery store. And one day I went in and I was pushing my cart through the produce department. I'm the shopper. And getting what I needed. And I saw a gentleman that I'd seen in the store 2 or 3 other times before. Person obviously dealing with quite active mental illness. And he was over in the produce department trying to decide which potato to buy. And that was obviously very hard for him. I know it was hard because I finished my little shopping trip, got in line at the checkout counter, happened to glance over toward the produce department, and there he was, still trying to figure out what he needed to buy or which he needed to buy. And I don't know what the thought was that went through my head. It wasn't, I love you and bless you and have a good day. I think it was a little more, diagnostic. That's a polite word for judgmental. Anyway, I had the most amazing experience for about 2 or 3 minutes. The experience was one of incredible anxiety, incredible disorientation. Interesting thing was, I was also extremely peaceful at that time. I'm not sure. I think it's because I was being shown something. I basically understood, the way I understand it, I was getting shown what was going on inside that gentleman's head. I got to experience for 2 or 3 minutes. I must have looked pretty strange going through the checkout line, okay? Because I'm holding on to the handle of my shopping cart and I'm buying my groceries and all this stuff is going on in my head. I knew I was okay, but whoa. I got out and got to my car and got centered, fine. But it gave me tremendous compassion for people who are struggling with confusion and projection and misperception, right? Disorientation. It also gave me a great awareness of the mind's ability to confuse itself, the human minds, right? And the fact that I've read minds are connected. Well, I've experienced it in some ways. That day, I really got to experience minds are connected. Mine and my friend, bless him, in the produce department. May he be well. So there's as I like to say in my current theology, there's a whole lot more going on here than we have any idea about. The other thing is I believe it's friendly. Well, we get to see things like that and understand. On a positive note, Course in Miracles that I study promises that anytime we heal anything in ourselves, a fear, an unforgiveness, a trauma, anytime we heal something within ourselves, it blesses everybody else around us. And anytime anybody else heals something around in their minds, in their hearts, it blesses me. Because we are all connected. And that clearing out lessens the fog of confusion that we all float around in on this planet. Think about it. Minds are connected. The less confusion, the clearer where the rest of us are. So do your work. I need the help. All right? Do your work. I need the help. None of us like having to deal with difficulties or problems or struggles or discomforts. But if we didn't see those, if we didn't experience those things, because all that, I basically take all that as feedback. If my world is difficult for me, then there must be some difficulty in me that is allowing me to see that. Some things that need healing in me, some things I'm projecting out there. I mean, if she is causing me problems, is that really what's happening? Is that really what's happening? Or is that my perception? Is that simply what I'm sending out? And is that simply a reminder to me that I've got some things in here I need to clean up? I've got some things that I need to clean up. You know, if I get a splinter in my little finger, maybe close to the fingernail, that's where it's really tender, right? All right. I've got a couple choices. I can get that sucker out as fast as I can, at which point my finger will start feeling better, my hand will start feeling better, I will start feeling more at peace, and I will be happier, which is what we're actually trying to do always, right? We're trying to get to happiness. Or I can say, that finger and that splinter has nothing to do with me. It's not, I'm going to project it away. I'm going to project it away. Now don't bump into it, or I'm going to be upset with you if you bump into my splinter, right? I can try to pretend like it's not part, like I'm independent from that splinter and that finger that is over there throbbing. Or I can heal and get rid of whatever the root cause of the problem is. That's really what we're trying to do and trying to work on. And that is, of course, again, what blesses us and blesses those around us. So, difficulties and the things, maybe it's just feedback. So I'll notice there's something that needs to be let go of. You know, things don't really have power. Unity has been very good at reminding us that the things that seem to be difficult for us are not necessarily difficult in and of themselves. The puzzle pieces weren't dangerous on their own. My ancestors are not problematic on their own. The problem comes from whatever imagined power my little human mind gives to those things. It only comes from whatever imagined power temporarily my human mind gives, right? That's it. And that's why Jesus is saying, you know, the kingdom of heaven, hey guys, it's all around you. Look around. People aren't seeing it. People are missing what's there. So what if this whole creation, this whole planet, this whole thing we're living in isn't as we've been seeing it? Which is what every mystic basically says. What if it isn't as we've been seeing? What if there's something absolutely beautiful to see, beautiful to experience? And what if that creative source of all of us, God, if you will, whatever you want to call it, you can call it Frank, doesn't care. You know, what if that source wants us to notice it more, to see it, to experience it, and maybe even is helping us by helping us notice things, like our judgments and our thoughts? What if it wants us to experience that? Well, I know some of you have been working on spiritual studies and meditation and trying to take it a little deeper inside for a number of years. You've probably bumped into moments, maybe just brief moments, but moments where you've had a little glimpse of that, or a feeling of that, or an awareness that, wow, there is something there. I can't put my finger on it. I can't make a name for it. I can't put a label on it. I couldn't write down a description, but it's there. And those moments stick with us and remind us to look more. The question, of course, is, am I going to be willing to set aside my beliefs and fears and all the stuff in my head long enough to let a little more of that come in and to let it begin to lead me? I titled today's talk, started to say this morning's talk today, it's a Sunday morning. And isn't it nice to be able to read the paper and have coffee and then come over here? We have a whole, we may be starting a new thing for all churches. We may be the leader. I titled today's talk, Almost Independence Day. Almost independent. Almost. Because I think that's how we live. Almost independent, almost free, almost happy. And of course, we all want to get all the way over there, all the way to happy, all the way to feeling really free. no matter where we end up. But of course, there's that famous quote from Albert Einstein: you cannot solve a problem from the same level of thinking that created the problem. You cannot solve a problem from the same level of thinking that created the problem. Human intellect, human cleverness is not going to release us from the problems that centuries and lifetimes of human intellect and human thinking have built. You know, you just can't get there. No amount of cleverness and clever thinking is going to do it. If you notice, if you read, I've been reading some history recently. History is interesting, sometimes depressing, because basically it's the same thing over and over and over, dressed up with different costumes. Maybe more people or less people, but human cleverness has not yet solved the human dilemma. Yeah. Now, if one of you guys can, that's great. But one of the things we tend to suggest is stepping back from our reliance on thinking and learning and figuring stuff out, stepping back from that long enough to allow an inner wisdom, a greater wisdom, a deeper wisdom to surface. Something that can show us what the next step is for us. Not for you, but for me. What's my next step? What can I see next that will move me forward into that greater experience? So can we step back and let God, what we would call higher thoughts or God thoughts, come through? Because those literally clear out old thoughts. Some of you may have had experiences where something pops in and it's like, I never thought of that, and you are free of a thought. I've actually had healings around that. People like to tell us that, independence and freedom, personal independence, national freedom is going to bring us happiness. Well, hasn't yet. But I've got a little wordplay to leave you with as I finish up today. I talked about independence a little bit. I talked about interdependence. Remember interdependence? Well, there's one last word I'm going to leave you with, and it's a word that you way to read the word independence. Independence can be read as independence. Independence. Dependence on a wisdom within. Something that isn't learned, isn't taught, can't be reasoned out, yet is present with each one of us and in every situation. Of course, the practice is simply, as we all know, to go inside, trust that we will find something in there, something that isn't thinky based, something that's not thinky based, but yet is present, that we can feel, and then to trust that. There's always that something within to guide us and help us find real freedom, a real happiness. And not just for me alone or our little group alone or one little family or one little person, but happiness for the whole crew. Happiness for the whole crew of this little planet. How about that? Happiness for the whole crew of this planet. We can't figure it out. I don't care how smart you are. Sorry, no offense. We're not going to figure it out, but it is present. And if we, as more of us work in that direction, we allow that to come forward, not just for ourselves, but for everybody. So I made a little affirmation for us to use. Thank you, Professor. Yes. With God as my source, freedom and happiness are assured. You want to say that with me together? With God as my source, freedom and happiness are assured. That's pretty good. Let's say that one more time together. With God as my source, freedom and happiness are assured. Close your eyes and let that settle in for just a moment, brief moment. With God as my source, with God as my source, freedom and happiness are assured. Not in the future, right now. Thank you, God. So it is. So, happy almost Independence Day. Now let's move on and get the rest of the way there, huh? I'd like to invite Brother Tolliver back up here to conclude our service.
What a wonderful and open and transparent sharing that we had this morning. Let Reverend Jim know just how much we appreciate your message this morning. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. It reminded me of something I spontaneously said in my introduction to you. The good you shared by virtue of unity is good for all life. Thank you so much. All right, I believe it's time for us to move into our sharing this morning. We know that as we give, so do we receive. It's through your generous giving that Unity of Charlotte continues to be a light in this community. So, do we have our statement up? We do. So, join me in our offertory of blessing. Joyously I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And all is well.